We've teamed up with Manchester City to bring one listener the ultimate Manchester City fan experience. Immerse yourself in City's state-of-the-art stadium tour experience, featuring all three of the treble winners' trophies, as well as a first-hand feel as you walk out from the Etihad Stadium glass tunnel. But that's not all. Not only will you have a full tour of the stadium in all its glory, you will sit in Pep Guardiola's seat on the touchline to soak up that matchday feel, as well as experience the newly updated virtual press room, where you can sit next to the likes of Pep Guardiola himself, Manuel Akanji, Nathan Ake, and Erling Haaland. If you want to be in with a chance of winning this fantastic prize, all you have to do is subscribe to the Talking City podcast and leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and email a screenshot with your name, location, and contact information to talkingcitypod, that's talkingcitypod@gmail.com, and we will announce the winner very soon. Good luck. Hello and welcome to the Talking City podcast. For part one, you're going to have myself, Seb Parkinson. We're just waiting on Rich Fay, who's got a very important line to write, and he will join us for part two. But in today's show, we're going to talk about the future of Pep Guardiola. Obviously, we've heard that Klopp is leaving, Xavi is leaving Barcelona. Mikel Arteta was asked about his future in a recent press conference. So we're going to talk about Pep Guardiola. His contract runs, as we know, sort of, is it 18 months or so,
Yes,
Si?
yes, it is, yeah.
So Pep's got around 18 months left on his contract, which we keep talking about potentially coinciding with the outcome of the Premier League charges against Manchester City. So we're going to talk a bit about that. And obviously, we're going to review City finally winning at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, finally scoring a goal. And then to end the pod, we're going to give a preview to City's clash with Burnley later on in the week. But before we jump into the review of the Tottenham game side, the talk of the week has been the future of a lot of managers. Jurgen Klopp on Friday dropped the bombshell that he was leaving Liverpool, which has sent the world into disarray. And then Xavi announced that he was going to leave Barcelona at the end of the season. Mikel Arteta was then asked about his future because he's been linked to the Barcelona job and everything in between. So it begs the question, after City's win at the weekend, where does Pep Guardiola's future lie? Is it in doubt? Is Pep Guardiola potentially running his contract down? He was asked, I think, after winning the treble, what more to win, and it was to score a goal or win at Tottenham. He's won the Super Cup. He won 5 trophies in a year. He seems like he's completed the set. So what's going on?
Only Pep knows. I think, nobody at City expects him to stay beyond 3 years. So the fact that he's expected to stay for 9 is pretty remarkable. I think, Klopp going from Liverpool was a big shock, but Klopp talking about being low on energy, you can understand that. Pep seems to be pretty full of energy at the minute. He's really relaxed into his position kind of over the years at City. And, he was asked on Friday after the win at Tottenham if he had energy, and he said, yeah, I've got energy for a year and a half and then I might extend. So, there is the potential to go beyond 9 years for City. Losing Klopp will be big for him because this is, a guy who likes to challenge himself against the very best. And Klopp is the very best, below Pep. Klopp's Liverpool have pushed City to greater heights, and City have pushed Liverpool to greater heights. So the two have been mutually beneficial. And, the Klopp-Guardiola rivalry goes back to when they were at Bayern and Dortmund. But, really, these two in English football have really stood out, and City have won the lion's share. But Liverpool have still caused them pain in both the Premier League and the Champions League, and they've won both of those, the two biggest trophies you can win as well. Under Klopp. So with Klopp going, it kind of almost removes one of the biggest motivations for Guardiola. There are other managers coming through to test himself against, and Arteta, and there's Pochettino and De Zerbi and all these people, Postecoglou as well. But, Klopp was the one. And, he said it on Friday night, a little bit of Man City feels lost because Klopp's gone, because they don't have that sort of stick to compare themselves to. However, this is a guy who hasn't broken a contract, so you would expect to see him see through to 2025, and who knows, really. I don't think Pep knows yet what he's going to do, and there's every chance that he could extend. There's every chance he could walk away. There's a chance he could walk away at the end of this season, maybe. It is very hard, like you say, when you've completed everything and you sort of after your next challenge. This is what City have been so good at, coming back and doing that, and Pep has been the one driving that. But one day it will come to an end, and Klopp leaving has kind of brought that a bit into focus for City and Guardiola. But listening to him on Friday night, he was full of energy.
Yeah, and we won't go too deep on this because in Act 2, Part 2 of this podcast, Rich Fay is going to join us and talk to you, Si, a bit more in depth about that and go into a bit more detail on that. But before we do move on to the review of the Spurs game, I just want to give a plug. Very soon, you'll be able to watch this podcast live as we record it over on our Facebook page at Man City MEN. We'll eventually get that live on YouTube as well. But for now, you'll watch it on YouTube in the evening. You'll obviously still be able to listen to it on all of your favourite podcast platforms at the normal time that we release the pod, so don't worry about that. But if you aren't subscribed to us on Facebook and YouTube, head over to @ManCityMen or search for Talking City Podcast, and you'll be able to join us there. And like I say, you'll be able to see us live in living colour, so if we make a mistake, you'll see it. Anyway, Si, let's jump straight into City beating Spurs. It was a massive, massive moment. Manchester City took the lead after, 4 or 5 minutes. We all thought that was it. City have done it. They finally scored at Spurs, and then it was ruled out. But fortunately for Man City, Nathan Ake came up with a goal later on in the game to seal that win and get the win, move City up into the 5th round of the FA Cup. So just talk to us about the performance. You were there at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. What was the mood like, and what was the food like?
I mean, the food was exceptional. The stadium is real. I can't praise it enough. It gets better every time you go. It is the best stadium in the country, and it makes every other stadium in the country feel really outdated, whether that is the Emirates, the Etihad, whichever. It is out on its own as easily the best. The game was decent. 2 strong teams picked by Tottenham and City. And it was a good game. City played really well. It was, I don't want to say it was comfortably the best performance at that stadium, because they've played really well at that stadium and lost, but it was probably comfortably the most complete performance. The first half was kind of nip and tuck and pretty even. Spurs seeing some of the ball, City dangerous on the counter, and then City sort of taking the impetus of the game. The second half was really kind of City really up the ante, and especially when they brought De Bruyne and Doku on, that was kind of the signal. Spurs were just trying to hold on at that point, and it was a case of, will City get that goal, or will Tottenham hold out for a replay? And there were 9,000 City fans in the stadium who were all living every kick. I had Sean Wright-Phillips sort of on my row in the press box, and there was Noel Gallagher sat directly behind, and they were both kind of getting increasingly both frustrated and thinking, we are never going to score in this stadium, because City had chance after chance after chance. Alvarez missed a really good chance one-on-one with the keeper. De Bruyne missed an even bigger chance sort of past the 80th minute, and you're thinking they just aren't going to score. And then as injury time approached, corner came in, Nathan Ake stabbed it home, and that was that. It was obviously a lovely moment for everyone there to finally see City score at the stadium, and another really impressive performance and win.
Yeah, so just looking at the game as well, if we just go off the stats, City had 18 shots to Tottenham's 1, 5 shots on target to Tottenham's 1, 14 corners to Tottenham's 2, and possession. They had 57% possession. So it was on paper a very, very dominant performance. Now, the only thing I took away from the game was when you watch City against Newcastle. Granted, they went behind in that game. They didn't against Spurs. The football that they were playing looked a lot more succinct than it did against Spurs. It felt that during the Spurs game, it felt a little bit chaotic at times. There was a lot of possession lost, a lot of possession turnover from both teams as well, and it felt like you could really tell that City had a bit of a break away from playing football, and obviously they've been in that warm weather training camp over in Abu Dhabi. So from that perspective, do you feel that City looked a little bit of, got rid of a bit of ring rust, but also do you think the occasion might have been a factor in that?
I think the occasion possibly. I think more likely was just we haven't played a game for 2 weeks. Spurs hadn't played a game for 2 weeks. Like you say, especially in the first half, there were moments where you're like, this isn't particularly high standard of football, as they both kind of gave it to each other. But I think the Spurs plan, as it was in the league game at the Etihad, was to sort of lose City's control and bring a bit more of that chaos. And if you think back to that league game, which was only a month, well, it was pretty much 2 months ago, it was start of December, Spurs really did unsettle City and kind of got them exposed in dangerous areas and scored 3 goals against them. Whereas Friday night was the first time that Postecoglou's Spurs have not scored in a match. So that's like over 20 matches. And, for City to have as much control as they did to, restrict them to 1 shot and no goals showed kind of how much more control City were able to bring and have brought to, their performances since kind of their slump in December. That really kind of shows the improvement over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, I was talking to my dad about this yesterday, and he basically said to me, I can see City winning the treble again this season. And I actually said that I can't see it. I just don't think they've got that. I don't think they've got that impetus this season that they had last season to go on and do that. But, hopefully for City fans' perspectives, I'm wrong. But I don't think a team, especially English team, have never won a treble and then won a treble again. I think 4 in a row is probably a big sort of milestone, a big statement to make. So what's your perspective from what you've seen of City so far this season? Do you think they've got any possibility of retaining that treble?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, the sort of counter question is who's going to stop them? Liverpool in the league have a decent chance. Arsenal, a smaller chance. Like FA Cup again, there's, Liverpool are in there, and maybe, I don't know, do you say Chelsea or United could beat them on the day? Possibly, but it'd be an upset. And the Champions League as well. Kind of, you're only really talking kind of Real Madrid and maybe Bayern Munich, but they're not really pulling up any trees in the Bundesliga. So, you look around Europe and you struggle to see many, if any, better teams than City. And, they've won 7 in a row. They seem to be gearing up for a run that they like to make in the second half of the season. And you listen to Kyle Walker talk, and he says, we're in the business part of the season now. We get it. We know. Listen to Guardiola, and he says, yeah, the players now know that if they lose, it's big. It matters. There's a lot riding on it. They can't lose. And, Nathan Ake, as well, after the game was saying, like we're going on the attack now. City feel like they are ready to hunt, and until they play Liverpool in about 5 weeks' time, they've not really got anyone strong in the league. They've got Copenhagen in the last 16 of the Champions League. They've got Luton away in the last 16 of the FA Cup, which you would expect them to get through. So you're talking about you could be getting to the start of March with FA Cup quarter-final, Champions League quarter-final pretty much in the bag, and maybe 2 points off Liverpool as you go to Anfield. So, and on like a 12, 13 match winning streak. So, I don't know, would you be more confident then?
Yeah, definitely. I just, the way I look at it is because City lost Gundogan and Mahrez, and then the players that they've brought in, so they've brought in Kovacic, which we'll talk about in a second, but then they've brought in Nunez as well, who feels like he's sort of been pushed out of the team or just can't get himself into the team. I just get the feeling that as the players are getting up, we've had Haaland's been injured and been away for a fair while. We don't know exactly when he's going to come back. Obviously, he scored a lot of goals this season already, but it feels like the team just hasn't had that same conviction that it had last season. When we were watching Man City last season, it felt like there's something special going on here, and there's something they're going to kick into gear. And it feels like this season, because maybe it's just because I saw it last year, but I just don't see that same desire and that same, like, we've never done this before, it's unprecedented, let's go and do it. I feel like they've done it now, and it's almost like let's sort of regroup, let's give these players another year under their belt, let's see where we go this year. I think they'll win the league. I genuinely think they'll win the league. I look at the FA Cup and think, would they sacrifice winning the FA Cup again to try and mount a Champions League run and retain that trophy? Obviously, Pep's won it once with City now since he won it with Barcelona, so we know that how important that trophy is to him. So I was just looking at it from a perspective of, it's never been done before where they've won a double treble, sorry. And I just don't think, no matter how good a team is, I just don't think that it can go on for that long. I hope, for City fans' perspective, I'm proved wrong. It would be an absolutely incredible achievement. But I don't know. There's just something telling me, and I think your counter question was absolutely spot on. Who's going to stop them? The answer is, I don't know. Maybe injuries is the only thing that could stop them, really, and player fatigue, because Pep does have he likes to keep quite a small squad of players, doesn't he?
Like, you are absolutely right. It shouldn't be done. It shouldn't happen. Like, the double treble has not happened because it shouldn't happen. Like, statistically, it would be an enormous outlier. It's like, not to give any traitor spoilers away, but like, you can have a perfect game plan and everyone goes in with a perfect game plan, but so many of them get derailed. Like, how often does someone have a perfect game plan and it all comes off? That happened for City last season. What are the odds of it happening again? Even bigger. So no, they shouldn't win the treble again this season. Like, something should happen, whether that's Liverpool, whether it's Real Madrid, whether it's Copenhagen, whether it's injuries, something should stop them from winning the treble. But as we sit here at the end of January, with a very favourable February for City coming up, you say it's very much on.
Yeah, and I didn't just want to sort of move on from it. I just wanted to talk quickly about Kovacic before we come to the end of part one. But I think Real Madrid are stronger this season, obviously signing a Jude Bellingham. But you're right. I mean, there isn't another team around Europe other than Real Madrid who I look at and think, you could beat City or give City a run for their money. I think City obviously had that bogey against Real Madrid where beating them last season was a much of a big deal for Pep as City fans as well, just because, I think famously, was it the season before that when they knocked them out and scored a few late goals against City, and it looked like City were going through. So I think you're right in terms of it shouldn't happen, and there's just something in the back of my mind telling me it won't happen, but there's part of me thinking it could happen. But I just look at this. The reason I'm a little bit dubious about it happening is because of the players that are coming in. Like, you've got Oscar Bob, who's currently a young player being blood in for his first proper season. You've got Guardiola, the jury's still out on him. I think by a lot of City fans are a bit unsure about, is he the real deal? You've got John Stones, who sort of is injured and his injuries are cropping up, and he's obviously a massive staple in that team. You've got De Bruyne, who's just coming back from an injury, and City fans have got to look at it and think, please stay fit because you are our talisman in that team. You've got Haaland with this is it stress fracture on his foot, is it? We don't, we're not doctors. We don't really know how serious that can be and whether that could crop up again. And then I'll move on to Kovacic in a sec, but Kovacic coming in.
Well, Kovacic,
people are sort of saying,
Kovacic is part of it. He's not fully convinced since moving, and Kovacic and Nunes, neither of them are close to doing what Gundogan did. But there's also a bit of recency bias in that, for 6 weeks after the World Cup last season, City were rubbish. City were really, really bad. And they lost 1-0 at Tottenham at the start of February last season, and it was like, these guys have got no chance of winning the league. Jamie Carragher came out and said Haaland had joined the wrong team. And then they were so amazing that in those final sort of from mid-February to mid-May that everyone remembers them as an amazing team. And they were, but they weren't for a long stretch of that season. But, from Friday night, Kovacic was really good. You know, one of his best performances. He was kind of good at the start of the season, then he dipped, and he's come back again and been good in recent weeks. And Friday was an excellent performance that makes you think that kind of, suddenly a midfield of Rodri, Kovacic and Foden and kind of Bernardo slotting in as well is quite strong. And you're no longer sort of thinking, who is that second midfielder in the three going to be? Because it's Kovacic. So he's not quite there, but if he can get there, then that would really strengthen City for the running.
Yeah, and I think that there's this sort of cloud over Man City as well, where a player needs to play under Pep Guardiola for a season before they really come good. And again, that sort of comes into the whole sphere of my thinking about whether City can go on. And it's almost like, I sort of refer to it as boxing, when you've got a boxer that's winning the fight comfortably. You know, they're winning every round, maybe drop one round, and then they have a round or two off just to get their energy back so they can go the full 12.
Yeah.
And I sort of think that's where City are at the minute in terms of their sort of recouping to then go again. And I don't know whether that's going to be this season. But then again, if they win a treble this season, you know, how do they, like, I think the Lionel Messi conversation is, how do you keep the motivation, desire? Because once you've won everything, how do you then motivate yourself to keep going? You know, Pep Guardiola's motivation was to win the Champions League, to win away at Spurs, score a goal at Spurs. It's like, what more is it? And I don't know if it was on this pod that we talked about it, where there's not many people out there who can plan for winning everything, because you plan up to winning it, but then once you've won it, it's like, where do we go from here? And that's where you see a lot of drop off. Obviously, City haven't dropped off; they're looking really good and really strong, but it's just, I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it, but I don't know. There's just, if I was betting on it, I wouldn't bet that City would win a treble.
Yeah, I think it's just difficult for us kind of to understand and comprehend, because, you know, with the best will in the world, we don't have that mindset. You know, you've got the best players in the world, or, you know, some of the best players in the world, one of the best squads in the world, who can all reset after winning multiple trophies, and you've got the best manager in the world who leads them all and gives them that extra step. So, you know, they have dropped off since winning the treble, but they've done it in City style, which means their drop off was like second place or fourth place and a few points off the top, and now they're raring to go again. So it is, you know, extraordinary, and we shouldn't kind of like shy away from the fact that it is kind of difficult to explain. And for that reason, which kind of tees up part two, like there has to be kind of doubts over when Guardiola will say he's had enough, because he's already won so much and not walked away. And
that's it. That's the beauty of it, because you look at Liverpool now and you think, who next? What next? Can that, you know, Klopp's come in and built a foundation. He's built up, you know, the way that the club operates around his style. You know, can another manager come in and recoup that? But like you said there, we're going to talk a bit more in depth about that in part two. I'm going to hand you over now to Rich Fay, who's going to come in and take the reins. I will be back soon, and then hopefully we'll have Joe Bray back soon as well. He'll be back in business. So join us for part two, where there's a bit more of an in-depth talk about Pep, Arteta, and Jurgen Klopp. See you in a sec.
Seamless, that, wasn't it?
Absolutely seamless.
You talk about replacing managers, there not being a drop off. Changing hosts halfway through a podcast. I mean, it's not advised, is it? But it's happened. So, Si, I mean, managerial talk. Did we start this week's podcast with a minute's silence for Jurgen Klopp or not?
It was. I think we're going to be in black and white to reflect the tone. You know, no colours allowed.
Too much laughter already. I'm not liking this. It's a bit too upbeat.
Somber.
We should be in mourning.
I think you might be able to. You'll never walk alone in the background.
Yeah, if we can get that faded in right now, actually, that'd be fantastic. Please, producer Seb. I mean, it is a very interesting time in the Premier League, Si. Pep Guardiola, of course, could maybe in the next few years leave City. Jurgen Klopp is leaving Liverpool. There's links of Arteta perhaps going to Barcelona. It's all change. What do you make of the landscape at the moment then? Because I think very pertinently, I mean, Liverpool fans never expected Klopp to actually leave. City fans might still be in slight denial that Pep ever will leave, but there will come a time when it's going to be role reversal, and it's going to be us talking about Pep Guardiola going in. Maybe we'll be having a minute of silence then.
Yeah, it was quite a nice rehearsal for what will happen when Guardiola leaves, I think, on Friday, because I think it will be a similar style announcement where it's just kind of like, yep, I'm going at the end of the season. Thanks very much. And everyone will be like, what? Yeah, it's kind of depressing for the rest of the league, I guess, and certainly Liverpool fans, because everyone's been waiting for, once Guardiola leaves, then we'll have a really chance because City will drop off. It's kind of been accepted now that Guardiola is the main reason behind City pushing so many points. So I think Liverpool fans were hoping that once Guardiola went, then Klopp and Liverpool could take over, but it won't be Klopp and Liverpool because Klopp's going at the end of this season. And yeah, you can... Klopp knows himself better than anyone. And, he was outstanding at Dortmund, and then things got a bit sticky, and he left, and then he was outstanding at Liverpool, and then he's had a few seasons in that where things haven't gone so well. He's built them back up again. They look really, really good this season, but he clearly feels he's not got enough in the tank. It must be exhausting going against City and Guardiola. Like, it's exhausting playing under Guardiola, but going up against him, it must be really, really draining. And so...
Yeah. Well, we always say that Pep's sort of 2-3 steps ahead of everyone. So to then be better than him, you've got to be 4-5 steps ahead.
Yeah.
I suppose the elephant in the room, though, Si, is if Jurgen Klopp is tired and low on energy, well, surely Pep must be approaching that himself just by virtue of how much it means to him and how intense it's been, on a City front.
Yeah, well, you would think so, but then, he was really interesting on Friday after the Tottenham game. He was sort of asked, do you have the energy? Well, no, he said he hadn't spoken to Jurgen, but he could appreciate that feeling of tiredness and exhaustion, and spoke about his time at Barcelona and how, he just wanted people to leave him alone. And obviously had a sabbatical at the end of that, and then went to Bayern for 3 years, and then has been at City for this is his 8th year. He was asked kind of like, have you got that feeling now? Did you have it after the treble? And he was like, no, I'm fine. Like, I might extend my contract. So, it was a bit of a flippant might extend, but the point is genuine that the pressure and the sort of pressure on him at Barcelona was so much greater than he has at City, in part because of the nature of the clubs, but also the nature of the media. It's very oppressive over there in Barcelona, and sort of timely enough, we've seen the end of Xavi at Barcelona for those reasons, really, because he has found it too much. It's consumed him, and he says like, I need a break. I need what's best for my family and all this. So, Guardiola hasn't had that in England and doesn't have that in England and won't have it. So he's kind of got more freedom to decide what he wants to do and when he wants to go, which is good news for City fans, I suppose.
I suppose the question as well I'd like to ask you, Si, is Liverpool fans now are frantically searching for who their next manager might be. Obviously, Xavi Alonso makes sentimental sense, and he's been very good with Bayer Leverkusen. If Pep was to do this shock announcement himself, do you think there is a managerial candidate out there who City would like and see? Obviously, we all know that City's contingency plan would be to try and ensure there isn't as big a drop-off as there could be, and it feels inevitable that there will be some sort of drop-off. I mean, Barcelona will have said that, but Luis Enrique, of course, went on to break even more records of them. Do you think right now there is a managerial candidate who would be a front runner if Pep dropped his own bombshell? I'm not sure there would be one outstanding favourites, because I think, because of the way City is run, there will be, they've already come up with names for who they might like, and I think they would want to kind of go through a thorough interview process. Cheeky Begiristain and Ferran Soriano, when they were at Barcelona, had to choose between Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola. Now, you can't think of two kind of more contrasting managers, but those were Barcelona picks. You would imagine that City's will all be of a very similar mould. People, and Guardiola will help pick his successor, because he kind of
wants to and feels the responsibility to.
Didn't go wrong for Sir Alex Ferguson, that did it?
No, but he has kind of cheeky McGearison rather than Ed Woodward, I suppose. I think I think Xabi Alonso would be among the front runners if he continues to do what he does at Leverkusen. He does have strong links to Liverpool, but he also, has strong links to Guardiola, having sort of thrived under him. Ange Postecoglou has done himself no harm. He's got a lot of support within the City Football Group for everything he has done. I think there are kind of a number of different people, and it might not necessarily be the biggest name. Roberto De Zerbi, kind of no one had really heard of until last year with Brighton, and now he is emerged as a real candidate. So there are you'll see someone who has kind of those City ideals, rather than it being a case of like, right, Pep's going, who's the biggest name we can get.
Exactly. Otherwise, Jose is out of a job at the moment, isn't he? So there won't be any phone calls to the special one. Interesting as well, the links with Arteta perhaps going to Barcelona. I mean, Pep Guardiola's comments often get rehashed, don't they, about he could replace me one day. He saw this managerial path for him. Arteta has done a good job at Arsenal. Once again, though, there'll be question marks about how good a manager he actually is. The fact that, Arsenal haven't won any of the major prizes really under him. Do you think Arteta to City could ever happen? Or do you think now that he's almost become more of an Arsenal figure than a City figure, that those bridges might have been burned?
Yeah, I mean, it's completely down to him, and he, very much enjoyed his time in Manchester and has those links to City. But I think he would kind of almost have been more likely to get the job if he hadn't had as much success at Arsenal as he has. It kind of feels like he's settling in there as, a real to make that his own. And once Klopp leaves, Arteta will be seen as and expected to be the main challenger to Guardiola. He might even win the league this year, but he will be there to deliver them major silverware and take on Pep, because he'll have been there 4 years now. So is it 4 or 5? December 19. Yeah, 4.
Good insight, whatever it is.
4 years. So he'll be there 4.5 going into next season. So you would
it's 4 until it's 5 to take the Arsenal mantra.
You would expect him to be there challenging City and maybe in pole position to take advantage of the expected drop off when Guardiola leaves at City. I wouldn't have Arteta as kind of a favourite for the job, just because, like you say, I think he's become kind of too successful at Arsenal for that.
We've spoken there about bombshells. Would it almost be more of a shock than if Pep signed a new contract again? Or do you think, honestly, from your own personal opinion, do you think that we are entering endgame for Pep at City? Or we were always told that, look, he would never last this long anyway, and he's already defied belief so many times, and he's perhaps already walked away. He's already missed the opportune moments to walk away, perhaps. It's
very, very difficult because we were just talking with Seb about motivation and when you decide enough is enough. It's been quite funny because this season Liverpool have been re-energised under Klopp, and Klopp has felt re-energised, and that has been the kind of mantra and the story behind Liverpool's rise to the top. And then as soon as he announces he's leaving, everyone's like, oh, he has been tired. He has been looking tired for a while. So he says he's low on energy. Yeah, he is. And it's like, the sort of conversation has changed just around one thing that people had no say over. I personally, observing Guardiola every week, feel like he is more relaxed than he was maybe a few years ago, and certainly at the start of his tenure at City. And he is relaxed kind of because he knows, what his squad can do. He's got less doubts about them. He's more confident in everyone around him, and they keep winning. He's got a young squad. So for as long as that is the case, and there's more kind of there's always more targets to aim for, you think, well, why wouldn't he continue and maybe turn 9 years into 10 or longer? But just like Klopp, we could be doing a podcast in 2 months' time where he's announced he's leaving at the end of the season as well. And I'm like, yeah, he was tired. You could tell he was tired. So
the signs were there.
Yeah. So, he says he's got enough energy left for 18 months till the end of his contract and maybe longer. And that is just kind of how you have to take it. Although the one thing is that, as I said, it'll be a similar announcement. I think it will be in the sense that there will be time given to this.
It'll probably be sort of Carabao Cup third round press conference next sort of September, October, won't it?
Yeah. Something like that.
When none of the sort of usual pack are there as well. That would be peak Pep.
Yeah. So people can expect that it's coming, but people have been expecting that it was coming since 2018 and it's still not. So, while it isn't, City fans will just love every minute of him being at their club.
Yeah, if there's one thing about Pep Guardiola and Man City, it is never sort of take anything for granted and never expect the unexpected, really. I mean, we will be back after the short break to look ahead to City's clash with Burnley.
We've teamed up with Manchester City to bring one listener the ultimate Manchester City fan experience. Immerse yourself in City's state-of-the-art stadium tour experience, featuring all 3 of the treble winners' trophies, as well as a first-hand feel as you walk out from the Etihad Stadium glass tunnel. But that's not all. Not only will you have a full tour of the stadium in all its glory, you will sit in Pep Guardiola's seat on the touchline to soak up that matchday feel, as well as experience the newly updated virtual press room where you can sit next to the likes of Pep Guardiola himself, Manuel Akanji, Nathan Ake, and Erling Haaland. If you want to be in with a chance of winning this fantastic prize, all you have to do is subscribe to the Talking City podcast and leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and email a screenshot with your name, location, and contact information to talkingcitypod, that's talkingcitypod@gmail.com, and we will announce the winner very soon. Good luck.
Welcome back to part 3 of the Talking City podcast then from the Manchester Evening News. I'm Rich Fay, joined by Simon once again. And Si, team news for Burnley. I mean, do we finally see Erling Haaland back in a City squad this week?
We might well see Erling Haaland back in a City squad this week, yeah. It's no given because he has been out for 2 months and it's been kind of moving forward in training and then stepping back again. So he will have to sort of train well and consistently over the next few days. But the signs are that, yeah, we will see Erling Haaland back in the squad against Burnley.
It's remarkable, isn't it? What 10 games he's been missing now. I think Pep said last week that he was on the verge, but not quite ready yet to feature against Tottenham. And there is that caution, isn't there, with Haaland, dating back throughout all his senior career, really, that he does have the susceptibility to injuries. It's remarkable last season that, he was so consistent for so long. But I suppose the key for City is if they want to get him back to that level, they can't just throw into temptation too much, can they? They can't just whack him back in and hope everything will be okay. As much as it might pain some City fans, it's better to be slow and steady with this one.
Yeah, definitely. And, the injury has been sort of while he feels pain, he can't play on it. So it will be led by him as much as the doctors as to how much he plays. But, I think they've shown with De Bruyne, it's been quite a slow introduction, and that sort of hasn't necessarily dimmed what he's capable of. So Haaland is probably similar from a sort of physicality point of view. He's still much bigger, but, they will both take time to get up to speed. But, City have the fixtures to get him up to speed probably. And they would like to think that by kind of the end of February, he's not had any more issues and he's kind of picked up plenty of rhythm and a few more goals
Yeah, you'd be expecting him to sort of be hitting top form for that Manchester derby, wouldn't you? First week of March, the 3rd of March. Got a hat-trick, of course, against United at the Etihad last season. City should have won that game about 8-2 or something, but it was still pain Pep that they only won 6-3 in the end. And, that looks like the sort of time frame, for my personal judgment, where you'd expect him to be scoring 4 goals a game again.
City will want him firing for the derby, and then the week after that is Liverpool away. So, if there's one fixture where you don't mind playing rubbish and Erling Haaland nicking you a scruffy goal to win the game, it's Liverpool away. So I think, that will be
He wouldn't do that to Jurgen Klopp, though, would he? Surely he's got too much respect.
Not on his farewell. Yeah.
No, it'd be horrible thing to do if Haaland did that. I suppose as well, Si, transfer news is pertinent because by next time we record, the window will have slammed shut. Calvin Phillips, did he ruin your trip to London on Friday by completing that move to West Ham early in the morning?
He made it a very long day. Made it a very, very long day. Yeah, it was probably 20-hour day. That's not fun, is it?
Never fun. Did you manage to avoid the traitor spoilers?
I did, yeah.
For those of you who don't know,
I managed a whole 24 hours.
Because that was a FA Cup scheduling nightmare, wasn't it? The final of the traitors when City are playing Tottenham, and it's all over social media. But
it was a bit of a scandal, I thought, that they didn't rearrange the game. I thought as soon as they knew that it was the traitors final, or just, get everyone there and just put it on the big screen so people could...
just have it pumping in the stadium anyway.
Yeah. It was bitterly disappointing that they decided to play football on that night.
But you managed to avoid all spoilers?
Managed to avoid it, yeah. Stayed very quiet, so no social media spoilers from anyone. And
it reminds me of when I was in high school, and one of my friends, he was that guy who just loves NFL. There's always one, isn't there? Everyone knows someone who just loves NFL. And he basically... It was like Super Bowl was like 3 a.m. on the Sunday, or Monday morning, effectively. He'd got through 7.5 hours of school without any spoilers. When someone just, we were in the bus bay waiting to go home, and he'd been waiting to watch it all day, didn't know who won, and someone just slipped out just in passing, and he got so angry. So yeah, we know what the spoiler alerts are like. But I suppose spoiler alert is that City won't be doing any more business before deadline day. Or not planning to do anything significant?
No. I think the squad's set, and I think with kind of De Bruyne coming back, even Doku coming back, Stones and Haaland before the end of January, and on this kind of winning run, it feels like the squad is stronger than it was a month ago. Even without any new signings, they've signed Echeverry from River, but he's staying there for the whole year. So yeah, I mean, I think it will be contingent on injuries whether they are able to. What success they're able to have this year. But
I suppose there's a precedent set as well, isn't there, Si? By the fact that they have coped so... I know they've not been perfect, but they've coped quite well without De Bruyne and Haaland anyway. Rodri's been the one who's probably had the biggest impact when he's been absent. But there is like a precedent set.
Yeah, like they've won 9 and drawn 1 without Haaland. So... It's not
what are you missing?
Bad.
You're just not thrashing teams as much as you should have, or rather than Haaland scoring every goal, other players are getting a chance to score. Give Oscar Bob a go. Let him get a goal.
Yeah. So that you bring those players, but also they weren't going to win at Newcastle until De Bruyne came on. So he showed what he can do, and Alvarez missed a few at Tottenham that Haaland might have stuck away. So,
and like you said, those games coming up. Derby and Liverpool, they're the type of games where in years gone by, City have rude missed chances, and we've always said, if they had a striker, they win that. If Mahrez can take a penalty, they win that game at Anfield. There's been those fine margins, and Haaland by then could make those into 2 very good wins.
Yeah, and Guardiola's been asked a few times, about how well the team have played without Haaland and how well they've done, and he's always made a point of saying, like, look, we want him back, we need him back. Like, we are better with Erling Haaland. It don't matter how much you can say you've done really well without him. Like, he's the best number 9 in the world. So
it's such a hipster sort of argument, isn't it? Like, City are actually better without Haaland, except for the fact that he scores tons of goals when he plays. Like, yes, they might do some little things better, but
what does he actually bring to the team apart from 60 goals a season? You're like, yeah.
What does he bring back other than a treble and 60 goals? Yeah, I mean, great.
Apart from that, what has he ever done for us? Why do we always end up on Monty Python?
Yeah, oh well. I'm not even going to try and make a link into that. I'm just going to leave it. Thank you very much for joining us today on the Talking City podcast. We will be back on Friday to look back at what happened against Burnley. We will also bring you up to date with if there was any sort of transfer news that's
exciting, wouldn't it?
There won't be. Yeah,
Sign a traitor.
Nothing. Just got rid of one, haven't they? So
maybe they could announce Jurgen Klopp. That'd be fun.
Maybe Barada's last act could be to sort of recruit another traitor to take his place.
Yeah.
Would be very, very in keeping with it. But yeah, we will be back on Friday. Not sure what the lineup will be on our end, but yeah, stick with us at the Manchester Evening News. Please make sure to leave a like, a review, and subscribe if you haven't already. And we're back again on Friday.